going to be presenting on something we've been experimenting a little bit with the last couple of years that we're calling story cards. And you can see there that we have a bit.ly. So we have links within this for you guys to use and watch videos. So I suggest you write down the bit.ly or copy and paste it into another tab so that you have the access to it. My name is Jessica Strum. I'm a math teacher here at Winnie Mac School, which is in the northwestern corner of Minnesota. And I get to teach in a small school that has all classes from K through 12 in one building, which means I get to work with elementary, and they're nice enough to let me work with them. So this is Eileen Cook. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Eileen Cook, and I teach kindergarten at Winnie Mac. Like Jessica said, she teaches high school, but high school and elementary can work together. So here we go.
All right. So story cards. So what is a story card? Just some of the basic structure of it. It's just what we did is we just took a normal, cardstock piece of paper. We cut it in half, and each kid gets half of it. We used white. Color doesn't really matter because you're going to cover it up anyway. The background is designed by the family of the students. So we had the parents make them. And so, it's all designed by them. We don't tell them what to put there. And then also another part of the story card is that it incorporates counters. So you're manipulative that you can count. And we explain that all to parents as we go.
Yeah, because basically it's a problem solving activity.
Yes. So you're going to be using it in your math classroom just like you would other counters, beans or Unifix cubes or whatever. So this is an example of one that I made. My family likes to swim a lot at a pool. So I made a pool with water, and then I just used little washers and painted them to be the floaties in the water. And so the floaties are the things that they can move around and that they can count. But there is also that we have this emphasis on making the theme something that's super special and unique to your family or your culture, depending on what your focus is, or the family decides their focus is going to be. So I started thinking about that because I felt like swimming was something that a lot of people do. So I wanted to be more unique to my family and what's special to my family. And I thought about this little bread cookie that we make with my grandma all the time that's called kringla. And so I decided that, that's what I'm going to make mine out of. So I printed out a Norwegian painting that's called rose mauling. I printed that out and put it on the card. And then I just got some pipe cleaners and twisted them into the figure 8 like that. And those are my little kringla that they can count. So this would, if my child was doing this would be something that they would consider special, because not a lot of people, even though we're a bunch of Norwegians here in northwestern Minnesota, not a lot of people still make kringla. It's kind of a lost art. So
your children would know what this is all about.
Oh yes. My children, my nieces and nephews love kringla and are so excited to come to my house. So it's super special to my house because you just don't know a lot of people that can make it. So that's why I chose that, because it was special to us. So here are some examples from Eileen's class this year that we still managed to do.
Yep. This one happens to be a family tubing down the lazy river in Mexico on vacation. And this family lives on a farm, does your heavy duty farm work. They're hauling bales and putting them up in the barn. And this one is a little girl who likes to go fishing at her aunt and uncle's. And then movie night's always a hit with families. And of course, we've got a lot of people who raise chickens. For some reason, lately, we have a lot of people who raise chickens.
Yeah. And gathering all the eggs.
Yep. And this family likes to play board games and any kind of game at home as a family.
And what game is this?
This game is headbands.
Headbands. I'm curious though, what is that up at the top? Is that a chandelier?
I think so.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, before we get really into this, I want to give credit where credit's due. This idea came from Dr. Jim Barta. He is a dean at the Bemidji State University, which is really close to us, only an hour away. And I saw this idea when I went to an ethnomathematics workshop that he hosted a couple years ago. And these are some examples of ones that he's actually done in different communities. I think the bottom right one is from Brazil, maybe. I'm probably telling you horrible, I don't even know, but he's gone all over the world and he visits different cultures and he really gets into it. And he asked people to make these story cards for him. And so that's where the idea came from. And I'm trying to take it just a step further and do it within the classroom with the kids and then actually using them in the classroom.
And he came last year to our family
He
night.
did. He came to our family night. It was awesome. It was fun to have him there. He, you know, watched and it was really fun to watch him react even to what people were putting together. So yeah, so it was a really great experience to have him here and to visit with him and learn about this from him. So manipulatives, so important, right? In the elementary, you know, high school teachers don't necessarily always think they're as important, but I do. I use them all the time in my high school. But elementary, you know, we need to be using manipulatives. I know I'm preaching to the choir. Typical manipulatives, though, that we use are our rec and recs and our 10 frames and our base 10 blocks and all those. And there's no way that we're saying to replace them. Actually, they're super good. And you're going to see how Eileen still uses them within also using the story cards.
Yep.
But our idea with story cards is twofold. One, the way Eileen is doing it, which is so awesome, she has the kids sharing with the class their story card. They get to show it off. And in that, they get to share their culture with the rest of their classmates. Their classmates get to know more about them. They get to know about their families and their cultures or whatever it is they're sharing. And so the kids get a share and we get to learn more.
Yeah, and basically what they do is we set them up on the document camera and it goes up to the Clever Touch. So they're moving back and forth a little bit too. You can see here he's up, you know, at the big board and here he's moving some things around and he kind of gets to be in charge for a little bit.
It's kind of like show and tell.
Yeah.
But they're doing math.
But they're doing that.
And we're learning a lot about culture and I mean, just so many things in there. So that's one part, is that we get to learn about each other and share with each other. The other part is now in action, when we're doing manipulatives, you know, if it's something that can be, instead of beans or whatever it is we're doing, if it can be done with these instead, it gives them something that they're a little more interested in. It gives those numbers that we're playing with a meaning behind them, whether it's buttons on a shirt or fish in the lake.
A personal meaning.
A personal meaning, something that they really care about, which could really reach some of our kids that are just finding the numbers boring. And the, you know, the base 10 blocks are kind of boring. They don't have a whole lot of meaning.
And things we use. And
so this is where we're experimenting. This is what we're trying.
These were from our actual family night last year.
Yes.
You know, just with when the family came in to create the boards.
Yeah. So no masks, because we didn't need them then. Last year. But okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about family math night. So last year was our first time trying it out. And so we hosted a family math night with inviting the parents in one night. And we had out this, you know, all the crafts that they could use. And we asked the parents, we went through the same thing we're basically doing here and talked about why we're doing it and what we want them to do. And so they started creating their own. You can see down here on the right, they go to an ice cream shop that's really close to their lake home. And so they get ice cream, you know, I think they said every weekend or something, and go and do that. You know, we have a family that does a lot of four-wheeling. And so she was putting together four-wheeling stuff. On the left, we have a 3D one.
3D ice fishing.
Yeah, ice fishing. There's a lot of ice fishing. You'll see a lot of fishing and ice fishing. We were trying to remember what the one on the right is. We're not quite sure. There's buttons on a shirt though. But you know, the kids are so proud of it. You've already seen this guy. You know, it's funny because this dad, his wife texted me and said, I don't know that we're going to come. And I said, why not? And she said, because dad doesn't want to do the math. He doesn't want, you know, not sure what math night looks like. But he had a lot of fun and they were both really proud of their product in the end. Yep. So I'm glad he did finally, you know, decide to come. While the parents were working on their project, I had the kids on the other side of the room and we did an open middle problem. If you don't know what that is, you want to Google it. But had a lot of fun doing counters and open middle problems and kind of exploring some numbers. You know, it's fun for me to be able to play with the little kids sometimes too. Okay, so Eileen's going to take over now and talk about what does she do in her class once these kids are done with these cards. So he's sharing, but what are the other kids doing?
Oh, the other kids, sure. Well, they're included too because they all have counters on their desk. An example might be, I know when we did this one, they're up at their cabin fishing, and you know, we cast it out and reel it in, and all the kids were casting out and reeling in their fish, and they'd have counters on their desk to basically do whatever he did up there. So everybody is involved.
And they're all in the same story.
Yep, all in the same story. Everybody's involved. It might be beans, it might be buttons, it might be anything. You know, sometimes the kids decide themselves, what should we use for the people? What should we use for the fish? You know, so they know what we have in here. So then they kind of have a little ownership in that on what they decide to use. So basically we're doing it, but the kids are doing it too.
Okay, they're going along. It's not
Yep.
just show and tell, then they
No.
participate.
They participate.
Okay, so these are some examples from this year. This year was actually different, obviously, with our COVID regulations. So we actually made a quick video together and sent it home to parents. And we told them what supplies we have that we could send home, and they made them at home and sent them here. So these are her examples from this year.
And you know what? They did an awesome job.
They're really
I think
cute.
we had a lot of requests for supplies in. We
Yep.
sent them back home. They brought them back in,
They
and
did.
and
Yep.
I hear, which one are we going to do today? Whose story card are we going to do today? And so let's take a look at this one. This one happens to be a family who likes to go on vacation, and they happen to be tubing down the lazy river in Mexico on this one. It all depends on where the conversation goes, what math comes out of it, because math is part of life. And the kids come up with different scenarios. On this one, we've got 10 tubes there on the bottom. Do you see all the smiley faces on there? That's 7 people in their party, in their family that went on vacation that year. So now you see them tubing down the river. We might have stopped and talked about who will hit land first, do the ordinal number thing.
Awesome.
with that, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh. We did some subtraction. I think we ended up with subtraction on this one. Yep. We had 10 tubes in all, 3 weren't used. So we had 7 tubers going down that river. You see the record rec on top. We purchased these. This one's a 10. I've got one that's a 20 and one that's 100. We use them a lot.
Good.
And along with the kids is homemade one. So this happens to be how we did this one.
Are the green dots from a 10 frame?
Yeah,
Is that what that is?
Yeah, it's from the 10 frame. It's kind of, you'll see it a little bit later. It's on the right. It's on like my whiteboard. It's a permanent marker. And we just use those. It's green laminated paper with magnets on it. That's all it is.
Absolutely.
And we plop it up there. So. And this family lives on a farm, and they've got this awesome field, and they have horses. And take a look at the detail that went into those horses.
It was amazing.
Yep, they have 4 horses out in the field. So we decided to, in the spring, we talked about seasons a little bit, and you could correlate this to a unit on the farm, because babies are born in the spring on a farm, and each horse had a foal. And there we go. We had 4 horses, and after spring, we had 4 more, and we got a double there. 4 plus 4 is 8. We hit our doubles a lot, so my kids will, anytime they see doubles, they'll make sure they incorporate that into what we're doing, because we just do it a lot.
Okay.
They just know to do it.
Awesome.
These are hay bales. Okay, Carter's barn. Him and his dad are farming, and it's hot, and it's in the summer. Again, we brought up what type of season it is. And he told the kids that they can put 2 hay bales up at a time. So that then right when he said that, I went, okay, 2s. How far are we at only 2? Can we, can't we? We tried. Some of us could, some of us need practice, and that's what you do.
Before she gets too far here, you'll see that on some of these pages, we have a link that says videos. She's actually recorded the kids sharing them. So anytime you see that link down there, you can click on it, and you'll see multiple videos in there of the kids sharing them. The math might not match exactly, because to make this video, we kind of quickly put this math together again. So, it might not match exactly, but you get the idea.
Yep. And here's our chicken coop. And this little girl had a name for every chicken and had their eggs. And so every morning, now I find out it's evening, they collect the eggs. But, I'm thinking when we actually did it, we did the whole week. We kept track of how many eggs they collected on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So we did some of that type of thing.
So are you saying like actual data, or are you saying you made up data?
We made up data.
Okay.
We made up data as we went. And then, so Ireland, she would ask the kids, well, how many eggs should we pick today? And then she decided, well, who should lay the eggs today? It's because she had names for every one of them.
That's
so,
awesome.
that was good. And I think we had 4 or 5 people in here who were really familiar with chicken coops. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, and basically just one of the simple things was one of the days, you can see the 2, one of the chickens, I can't remember their names right now.
Yeah.
It might have been Henrietta. Henrietta had 2, and I think Lucy had 1, or I'm just making up the names now. And Frederica had 3. So we added up how many eggs were, they picked that day. And then we did some charting, and they got to see what data was all about, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Okay, now this is little Chloe who's fishing in her auntie's lake. And what was really cool about this one was she brought a fish hook for every student to use. And you can see all the pipe cleaners there. So every child had a fish hook. So when they cast their line, they actually had that fish hook in hand, and when they'd reel her in, they had to reel in harder for the northern, and the sunnies were really light. Basically they were fishing, and she had, I think it was 5 people out fishing on the pontoon. So she would pick whose turn it was to catch a fish and what kind of fish they caught, type of thing. So when we caught them, we put them in the live well. And then we were thinking about, and I kind of asked the kids a lot, well, what do you see? What kind of math do you see there to kind of go along with your notice wonder things? And so one of the things they saw was how to group their fish, that kind of thing. So just, conversation like that. So we ended up, taking notes on how many fish we caught that day. Doing some adding. They're getting good at adding up more than 2 numbers.
Awesome.
Looking what's easier to add first, what makes a 10, what makes a 5. And this family likes to watch movies together and have popcorn. So this happens to be some of their favorite movies, and you'll see the little smiley face people there, and that's the initials of everybody in their family. And he brought popcorn for manipulatives, which was kind of unique, I thought. You used to be surprised how well popcorn stays in a Ziploc bag for weeks on end. And then he decided to show us who likes what movie the best, so that we could talk about, the most, the least, the same, that kind of thing. And then how many bags of popcorn they ate. His dad ate 3 bags. His name was Dawson. Dawson had 2. His little sister didn't have any. And then his mom and his sister had 1. So with that info, we just put a little graph together, type of thing. And again, there's our Wreck and Ruck on the top. And though there's the 10 frame, that permanent 10 frame on the side that we just, when we first did some number sense here a few years ago, that was my first 10 frame.
Yeah.
That was before I had 10 frames.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
And this happens to be a garden. This family likes to garden. Her name is Ellie. And she actually loves all these vegetables. When we first did this in class, we actually planted them too. We've got the tomatoes planted, how many vegetables we have left. But just for this sample, I just kind of went ahead and we just took the 1 row of tomato plants, move the Wreck and Ruck over. And then they would go, okay, so whose turn is it to go pick in the garden for supper? Maybe it was hers or her sister's. So they went out and took the tomatoes, that kind of thing. So we kind of incorporated who liked what vegetable the best in the conversation. Again, the season, it was more towards the fall than summer.
Right.
And then we made the math subtraction problem out of it. And then this little guy, their family plays a lot of games. This game happened to be headband. So there's all the people, and then the initials are by the people, and then the little pipe cleaners for headbands. And then whoever has that little smiley face, it has the actual headband on it. Is what, and so what this is, what the buttons mean right there is who won the game. So his dad won 2 games. His little brother won 1, that kind of thing. He actually won 3. And so we just kind of did some adding with it to see how many games they played. Then talked about who won the most, who won the least. And again, the same, because the same on graphs is hard for some kids. It's hard for that concept of the same, kind of like equal is sometimes. They don't get that, but they see it. They see it. And so now we talk about, they saw double. They saw, the 2 and the 2 and the 1 and the 1, because we talk doubles a lot. And they could see that was an easy way to add all them up.
Very cool. So we actually don't have any pictures for this one, but we were talking about, Eileen has used this to really just sharing their storyboards, and whatever math comes up with the story is what math they do that day. It's not necessarily part of their math curriculum for the day. Sometimes it might be. Right, because these videos, they come up and things come up and I go, oh, okay, let's do it. That's a good idea. Oh, awesome. I mean, the math has meaning behind it. So then, like we've been talking about, where can we go forward? Again, we've been experimenting, so we're not totally, like 100% this is what we do, but, where can we go forward? So, we're talking anything that you are doing, in the future, if you're going to just be starting to work on doubles, can everybody get out their own storyboard now, their story card, and set up doubles? Like, what's the story in your story card with doubles? One of the things that actually came from the hay bales one was I hadn't started counting by 2s yet, hardly. Maybe a couple could do it, but now we're doing that more.
with everything
Right.
because
Because it lets
because
you
he
add it.
said we put 2 up at a time.
Right.
And just
Right.
okay, 2s.
Right. Natural progression there. So there's so many ways this can go. You know, we were talking too about like connecting it to other curriculum. So, you know, in your science curriculum, if you're talking about seasons, you know, which ones are in the spring, and just being able to incorporate them throughout. It's also important for these kids to see that there's math within everything of their culture. And the fact that they can come up with things that they can count within whatever it is that they're doing a storyboard.
It makes math, it keeps, they really think of math as being fun. You know, it's fun for them.
Right. It's not just, you know, numbers that are being put together and taken apart. So, you know, so being able to do that, I think there's so many places that we can incorporate them. So many things that we can do with them.
There was something else that came up on that too, was you talked about science, right? You talked about seasons. Oh, spelling.
Spelling,
simple words. When we were doing the chickens, I just said, what's another name for chicken? You know, I got hen out of them, so, you know, we could spell the hen, you know, that kind of thing. So any cross curriculum works.
Writing, you know, if you think about all the journaling you do, can you journal about your story card today? Can you know, there's just so many places that this can go and this can be used.
And then also, what I do is, and you're right, one of my kids told me I need a cameraman because I'm holding my iPad and videoing and then kind of helping the children, and yet teaching and trying to chart on the board. So sometimes I get in these really awkward positions. So one of my kids said, Mrs. Cook, you need a cameraman. So excuse the positions on the videos and you do see them. But it's kind of fun, but I share it with parents. I just put it up on a folder, you know, put a link to it, kind of similar to what we did here. And then the parents can actually watch what their child did.
I think it's been interesting too, hearing parents talk about it. And I think one of the things that might help with, you know, I get frustrated when I've talked to parents and like, I don't know how to help my kid. And I'm like, well, get out some Cheerios and work it out. But that's not an idea that people have if they're not a math teacher. And I think this kind of helps with that though. They realize, oh, now I know what you mean by get out something and work with it. Cause now I've made that thing and I've thought through that. And so there, you know, there's just a lot of places that this can go. I have a couple wonderings, things that we can do. So, you know, as we go on with this, you know, is there a way that we can maybe even scan them? There's some beautiful pieces of work being done. Is there a way we can scan them and maybe next year they would have a scanned version or something that we can print out instead of the original that can be passed on now to first grade? And now first grade can use them and they can keep using them. Or, you know, if somebody doesn't have one, can we scan a different one and they can use it? You know, we have, you know, we're mainly, you know, Norwegians up here, but we do have a population of Russian Orthodox families. You know, sometimes it's hard. Some of these boys just don't see the value of what they're doing. And so, you know, could we get some people from that group and have them create some story cards for us that then we can scan, and now those kids have something that they see as a part of their lives and something of interest that they can now use. And maybe see why they're learning about these things and how it applies to what they're doing somewhat, where they are. So the idea is, you know, could we somehow now produce them a little bit? Is the manipulative something you can easily
instead of
recreate?
Just being done with it?
Yes. Yeah. So, you know, Eileen's talked, you know, it's taken a long time to go through this show and tell process. It does take a bit of time. You know, maybe one year she doesn't have that kind of time. And it's something that she can recreate, and she's scanned them and she can print them and use them, or even, you know, just have them for future use because she's put together enough of them that she has something. Here's my library of cards. What's interesting to you today?
Right.
You know, something that you can use.
Or even, you know, one of the ones that I haven't done yet was an apple tree with apples on it. You know, and I think when we're learning our simple adding and subtracting, you know, we use, you know, instead of using a reckon or using beans or whatever, if I had, you know, an apple tree for everybody with little red hots for apples to use type of thing, they could just use those.
Absolutely. And I love though that you, while you're going through it, the kids are doing it with the card, but you're doing it with the Reckon Recs, and you're doing it with the 10 frames, and those aren't going away. They're just also being seen in other places. So all these different representations that they have is really, really valuable. You know, and then also you wonder too, like, you know, if you're doing different units within your school about the different cultures that are within your school, you know, is there a way you can showcase that and you can focus in on that? So, is there a way we could get a collection of Native American ones? There was one that Dr. Barta had that was the jingle dress. Is there ones that we could do? And you know what, this week we're going to do this one, and everybody has a copy of that one, and we're going to do this, and are we going to find value in that and see the beauty in that and learn more about those different things? So, is there a place you can do that? But also I think some of these, is there a way you can display them outside your room and say, these are the arts that our kids have put together, and they're so proud of them.
They are very proud.
You can see it in their faces. You can see it, in the pictures that we've taken of just how proud they are of them.
And they ask all the time, well, when are we going to do a storyboard again?
Right.
Because I don't get to them every day.
Right.
When are we going to do one?
Yeah. So this is our experimenting, what we've tried to do. I'm hoping that, by sharing this with you, we've inspired you to try something out. Maybe we've given you some ideas that you can do in your classroom. Again, here's the bit.ly for you to be able to get to this, so you can see those videos. You can re-look through those pictures if you would like. If you want to contact either one of us, please feel free to do that. I didn't put my email there, I'm seeing that, but so Eileen's email is there. Mine is just jstrum@winniemac.k12.mn.us, but I also have my Twitter handle there too. It's another place you can find me. But thanks for joining us. And if you do it and you find that it's great, please share it with us. I'd love to hear what other ideas of how people are using them.
Yep.
And how they've been done in your classrooms.
A lot of, and you might think too, oh, it's another night type of thing, like with a family night, but we did a really good turnout.
We did.
When we brought parents in, I think we had 15.
Yeah.
Was it like 15 parents? And
out of how many do you have? Like that might be different for.
Yeah, last year, we actually could bring people into the school. I think I had 21 kids.
21. So you had quite a few. You had a good percentage of them. Yeah, and it was fun, and the parents had fun. I brought Kringle in for everybody, so we had a little snack, so they could, try it out themselves. But it was fun to do that.
Yep. And this year, like Jessica said, we sent it home. We did a little video, and we had a really good, turnout then too. We've got one from almost everybody.
It was only 2 kids that we had to make them for.
Yep.
And that was, easy enough. We just sat down and asked them what they do, and we made them pretty quickly. So. Yeah, well, thank you so much
thank you
for doing this with me. And I hope to hear from some people and some ideas that they have and successes that they have.
It's worth the time. It'll take a little, and once you do one of them, you'll say, oh, I get it.
Right. Yeah. I haven't convinced everybody here to do them, but Eileen is awesome and is willing to try it out. So I'm glad to hear that she says that, because I really think this could be really special.
Yeah. Sometimes she gives me things and I go, huh? But no, this was a good one.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.